Okay, so in a prior video, I showed how to set up using an adapter that would give you two additional SATA ports. And then I was able to string, kind of like taking the existing SATA connector and make a third. So you could have three sort of external drives coming off of your EliteDesk ProDesk. But then I saw this guy, and this gives you six. And so I made a little short that showed six connections going to six drives. And I said, okay, coming soon, I'll show you a video in which we put everything inside and everything's nice and, tidy. And that's hopefully what today is. It's been a long journey. In trying to find the right combination of cables and connectors and power and the whole gamut. I even went so far as to say, well, maybe I don't want like a SATA adapter inside, and maybe I could do Oculink, or I could do this, I don't know, what do they call slim SATA or slim SAS, something like that. I tried all those. I couldn't get them to work. They would never see any drives. So I ended up coming back to this. But even with this, there were challenges in trying to fit all the cables on here and still be able to close the case. And that was my requirement. Is you had to be able to close the case. No cutting into the case and anything. Obviously, it's going to come out the side, but it's got to be able to close. So I tried a lot of different ones, and you'll see as we go, you'll see some of my choices. I also tried to keep cost within line. One of the solutions, and I saw on a Reddit post that someone had done, is they did this, but they used these cables from, I believe it's called Silverstone. And instead of the traditional that kind of clip this way, they come from the side. So all of your cables would go this way. And that looked great. The only problem is they cost you almost 20 bucks a piece. And I'm not going to spend $120 just to be able to have a set of external. Now, please, if there's someone out there that wants to do it and does it, I'd really love to see, how well it works for you. But I tried to make this so that for the, the basic person out there, they'd be able to do it. So let's talk a little bit about what we're going to need to do as far as prep. Now, I also, in my quest, tried to use the G4 and the G3. And the problem with the G4 is that center M.2 is just so high that even with all the cables, I couldn't get the stuff closed. And then if I used the far one, there just wasn't enough space to kind of curl the cables around. Maybe with cables that were very thin, you might have some luck. But in the end, I said, okay, I'm going to go back to my G3. You can use either the 800 EliteDesk or the 600 ProDesk. And I was able to get it to work with it. So let's first talk about prep. And I've taken one of my existing G3s and just kind of show you what we're going to need to do. We want to pretty much gut this guy. We're going to get rid of the Flex IO. You're going to have to get rid of the caddy. You want to get rid of this SCSI connector because it's not SCSI, SATA connector. It's not needed. We're going to have to get rid of the Wi-Fi card because in order to be able to fit everything in there. And you may want to disconnect, at least temporarily, the fan here, and then you can, you know, kind of whittle it back in. So let's just kind of show you what it's going to look like when it's, you know, partly gutted here. Let's start by taking out the caddy. I'm going to first take off the SATA connector. Remember, there's 3 screws for the EliteDesk and ProDesk, but for the G3, G4 only has 2. Now, technically, if you want to keep this, you can, but you're only going to end up with 4 externals, and one of them is going to have to be your boot drive. And I'll show you. If you're doing mechanical, it's painful booting from mechanical. You know, obviously you could put a SATA drive in there and you'd probably be fine. But for this particular setup, I'm going to take this out, at least show you to get 6 connections, because that's what I promised. And then for myself later, I'm actually going to use one of these kinds of adapters with the 2230, and I'm going to stick this here, and that's going to be my boot, because I'm actually going to turn this, my particular setup, into a true NAS NAS, you know, setup, because my current one only has 2 drives. They're mirrored. I want to do some other stuff with it. So to take out the SATA connector, there's a little plastic one. You're just going to, on the edge, pull it up so that way you can take out the thing. Be very careful. The other day, I was just a little too aggressive, and I took off this whole plastic piece. Fortunately, I was able to put it back on again, but it never happened before. But I was grasping it too low when I was trying to get the connector. So take that out. Put all this along with the screws. You know, get a nice a bag. You know, one of these you know, kinds for, you know, similar to something like this, but, you know, much larger. You know, just to kind of keep them to the side. The fan, just lightly hold, kind of wiggle it there. Just so you know, this is what it looks like when it goes in. So later on, when you're trying to figure out the direction, you can refer back. We're going to want to take out the Flex IO. Taking out the Flex IO is much easier once you get the caddy out. And that's kind of the order. And to take this, kind of put your nail slightly to kind of sort of break the seal. I would get one of these nice anti-static bags, put it in here along with the screws, because you're eventually going to either repurpose this guy or do something else with him, and you don't want to lose, you know, that's those Flex IO are good, you know, 12-15 bucks a piece, so keep those to the side. This screw will take out the Wi-Fi card. Because this is a unit I'm actually going to use, I'm going to just leave this here for now. If you've seen my other videos, I am inept at putting the antennas back on, so I don't want to take them off here. But for yourself, you would want to take this unit out, take out or, you know, detach the antenna. I would probably wrap the antenna in some Captain tape, and then try, if you can, to sort of put them down here, in just kind of get them out of the way, because later on when you're trying to do stuff, it's going to be annoying when these and they're popping up. Now that we've got a unit that's all sort of stripped down, we can start doing the work, and I can at least explain some of the stuff. I'm not going from the the complete start, but I think you'll get the idea of what you'd need to do in order to get the stuff set up. I'm going to have links to all of the various adapters and cables and whatnot that you might, be interested in purchasing. Now, this also assumes that you have sort of an abundance of 2.5-inch drives. Um, I have a bunch of the mechanical from old laptops, from that people have given me that I've e-wasted, the whole gamut. And along the way, a lot I got rid of and destroyed, but a lot I kept, especially if they were at least maybe 1 terabyte. So for this particular exercise, if you want to do all 6, you're going to need at least 6 of some kind of drives in order to do it. And again, I'll include links for all the various. It is going to. It's a neat little project. Lots of your shopping list for eBay or Amazon or Newegg or wherever you like to get your components from. It's going to be fairly long because we've got a lot of different things. Hopefully, you'll be able to reuse things like, hey, do you have some SATA cables laying around that you might be able to use, or some sort of enclosure, etc. So let's move this out of the way and we'll open up the actual unit. So one of the challenges I ran into right away was that these are so close together. And as soon as you put a second one in, number one, they may not even go in. And if you can imagine, I get one of these in, and then I still have 4 more to deal with. I played around with, they do sell some that where this is more like a braid, I guess you'd call it, or like 2 little wires. It's still, when you stacked them up, they would, it still just wouldn't, it would become so thick with all the different ones connected over that you couldn't close the lid. So I hemmed and hawed, and I thought, okay, well, if I can sacrifice 2 of these, so I only get 4, would that be okay? And for what I'm wanting to do with them later, that worked out. But I still, even with sacrificing 2 of them, you're still running into the problem. So then I thought, they make what is known as left-angled SATA cables. And this is an example of let's see if we can get that in focus. Okay, this is an example of the left one. Let's see, maybe we'll put a little light there. And you'll notice where the notch is. So if you see that the notch is kind of on the left, this is the more your basic standard one. It's on the right, the little notch. And you do have to kind of look for, like on Amazon, if you look for left-angled SATA cables, there aren't that many of these. This, I just happen to have 2 of them in my collection of them, but these are just too short. So I ended up having to order, I went with like 12-inch. You can get like 18. They definitely are more expensive than the right-angled ones. But what that allowed me to do is that then I could put my left like this, and then on the other side, I could put the right. So I'd put another one here. So that way I would end up, it would be flat enough on the side when I put the whole unit in I could still put the cover on. So I said, okay, I think I can live with that. And I got that in, started playing with it, but then I thought, the viewers want 6. So I said, well, what if I use the adapter from the other video that gave me 2 more? And that's what you'll see in this. So let's open it up. Under here, and using the Wi-Fi slot, is the other 2. And the whole cable management, so that way it can go out the back and be able to connect to our drive. So let's stick this back in. Normally, of course, you would put this in first, or I should say put both adapters in first, and then play with cables. And in my case, I put the cables for these first. Well, actually, I think I put this side and then I put this one over. We'll give it a try here. Okay, that's what it looks like in place. I'm going to put my left-handed ones, which are these guys, first. Yeah. You want to put this one, this sort of first position, and then route the cable so that it's more on the outside of the 2. And then you can put this one. Okay. We'll attach these. For this particular one, I like to use one more fatter type for the back. Then it goes right over the top of the other one. Okay, and then these, you notice we've got it coming out here. Same thing, sort of the outside one will go first, and then the out. There we go. Okay. We now have 6 SATA connections. What's nice with this particular 6-unit one is that you can actually boot from one of your drives. This one won't let you boot. This one you will. So if you're setting all this up and you're going to use one of your drives for boot, make sure it's connected to one of these and not these. That way I'll be able to see it and boot up. I didn't show you here. So this is the fan connector. What I would probably do is once you have everything in place, then you can come kind of move it to the side and get kind of in between the 2, and then you could put your fan connector back in and maybe loop it around. This one may not have even had an antenna, so it was kind of nice. I didn't have to deal with them. They were just off the side. Okay. Now, the next big question is, how do I power these drives? And in my other video, I was using something that took power from the actual SATA connector. Some folks were a little worried about that and wondering, is that what kind of draw that's going to have? So I looked deeper and I found, so this is what it looks like. They sell ones that just have a single USB, but I like this one because you got the dual just in case you need a little extra juice. And I use both. I believe I've looked at various things saying that the USB ports will do about 4.5 watts, but it sounded like the USB 3, or 3.1, you might be able to get more out of them. But if you're going to use this, make sure they are connected to USB 3 at least instead of 2. I tried it on a different, I think it was on a thin client, and one of the drives started almost clicking because it just wasn't getting enough power. Thankfully, on the EliteDesk, all the ports are USB 3. So you plug this in to the back of the unit, both of the USB. And then I have one of these where you connect one power connector and it expands into appropriately 6. So this goes in the back. This clicks onto here. And then these go in the back of the drives. How it works for you is going to be probably different. A lot of it's dependent on the drives. Most of mine are probably slower, the 5400 RPM. And of course, they're also coming from laptops, which is a little better in terms of, power drain usage. If you just went straight SATA, then yeah, it's going to be nothing. And I mean, you might even be able to get by with just using one of the USB connectors. Let's show you what it looks like on the other side, meaning when it's connected into the drives. Let's see if we can move this over. So first, this is what it looks like coming out. And this is at the other end. Now, as far as cable length, probably if I were to do it again, I would be a little more, I think it through in terms of overall lengths, just to try to keep them as similar as possible. You're probably going to want, let's say if you had the left angled ones at a foot, you may want to go possibly, I don't know, anywhere from 16 to 18 inches for the right-handed ones. The ones that are going to go into the Wi-Fi slot, you could probably get by with 18 on those too. These setup, this is just a 2-drive caddy. This was actually designed originally. You put it into your PC and it allows you to put 2.5 basically in the same area that you would put a normal 3.5 inch. And then I picked up this guy that can hold 4 2.5 inch. And this is what I'll use for my NAS, and these I'll disconnect later. But you can see, let's see if we can turn it a little bit. You can see how the connectors are going in. And I really love this I don't know, multi-headed power thing. It works great. A couple other things I would recommend not getting where it's right angle on both ends. Have one end, the ones going into here you want to have straight because you don't have a lot of room here, and having the right angle, it's just not going to fit. So you want to have straight. Connecting to the actual adapter, I'm not so wild about the ones with the I forget the term for them, but basically, these little clips, because it makes it hard if you ever want to take out the from the adapter, and you got to like take a spudger in there and kind of try to push it. I would on this end it's okay, but I'm not so wild about it on the other end in all my gyrations and playing with it. So let me show you with the top on. Okay, truth in advertising. Here's the moment of where the rubber meets the road. We'll just kind of slide it on there, and it's connected. I didn't have to get rid of the latch, and it's on there. It's all ready to go. We'll hook up power, network. I'll put my mouse and keyboard, and we'll fire it up and we'll go into Windows. Okay, so we're inside of Windows 11. And one thing I did do was I swapped out, and I'm using a SATA SSD for my boot drive instead of the Windows 11 on a mechanical drive. It's just so slow on a mechanical drive. I would not recommend it unless you have no other choice, because it just takes so long to boot. And you might as well, spend a little bit and just get a SATA SSD. They're not that expensive. I would just use that for the boot drive. So here I am at a pretty steady state, pretty idle state inside of Windows 11, and it's been around 17 watts. I'm showing. So that's pretty good considering you've got 6 drives connected, and I can show you that we do have the 6 drives. We'll go into disk info. There we've got this is of course the SATA. This is all of the. This is a half gig. Half terabyte. The rest are 1 terabyte drives. And they are, they're all connected, they're all working, ready to go. What folks might ask then is, well, now that I've got these, is there anything that I can do with them other than obviously I can just, format them all and have, C, D, E, F, G, H, all these different drives. One thing I've been playing with is these kind of storage spaces. And let me show you what we could do real quick, just something to play with. We've got 5 drives we want to go with. You can't use the storage spaces for anything that's bootable. It's got to be for secondary. You want to go in, just do a search, and look for Manage Storage Spaces. We'll come in here, create a new pool. And what I want to do is I want to create... I've got one of these that's formatted, which is the 464. What I want to do is I want to take 3 of the drives, including this one, and I'm going to just connect them basically, or stack them, so that I end up with kind of almost about a maybe 2.3, 2.4 terabyte drive that I can put stuff on. Maybe I'm not... I just need some kind of scratch that maybe I throw all my stuff onto. If something happens to them, I don't mind. And so let's go ahead and we're going to create a pool with those 3. And we're going to create what's called just simple, no resiliency. What that means is that if any of those 3 goes out, it's going to ruin it all, because you have no idea where your stuff could be. It could be on the border between 2 drives. But maybe you don't care. You just want them all together. You just want, so in this case, 2.25 terabyte. I'm going to say create. And it's going to open up. And if I say this PC, I've got my SATA, and then, here it is. Drive D is, 2.25 terabytes. But then you're like, okay, I've got 2 more. What I'd like to do with that is I'd like to mirror them, so that whenever data is being written to it, to this drive, it's going to write it into both drives, so that way what can happen is that if one of the drives goes bad, I don't lose all my stuff. Everything's on the other. Eventually, I would want to get a replacement, so that way, I get that same resiliency. But but if one drive goes bad, then I'm okay. So I'll come back here. I'll go back to create a new pool. I've got the 2 left. I'm going to say create pool. And then now it's going to say, okay, what do I want? I want a 2-way mirror. 1.8 terabytes is available. or I should say really capacity. This is then where we set the size. Now, traditionally, if I have mirroring, if I have two 1 terabyte drives, I basically end up with 1 terabyte of usable space, because if you can think about it, every time I go to write something, I'm going to write to both drives. So I'm not going to end up with 2 terabytes of space. I only have the 1. Windows is a little different. They just let you set whatever size you want. I could set a maximum of 8 gig, or excuse me, not 8 gig, 8 terabytes. It always throws me because these are both terabytes, and then this it says gigabyte. But I could set it to 3 terabytes if I wanted to. It's going to show as 3 terabytes, but the problem is as I get, and I'm actually using up space, it's going to say, hey, wait a minute, there's no more space. You're going to have to add more drives. There's different ways to go about that, with the idea that, okay, well, I can just always add stuff as I need to, but we're going to make it really simple, and we're just going to say that the available maximum space is just going to be 0.9 terabytes. So let's go in here, 0.9, and then we'll say create storage space. We can also get out of here. And now if we say this PC, I've got my SATA, I've got my 2.25 sort of scratch drive, and here's my storage space, that's 921 gigabytes, 0.9 terabytes. This one, if I write stuff to it, then when what I can do technically is, and I've tried this, is I can write stuff into here, shut down, unplug one of those drives, come back in here. I'll still see everything there, but I'll get a warning and it'll say, hey, there's a problem, the drive's missing or it's bad and you need to replace it. And so then, I could put in a replacement for it. Speed-wise, for those, they're all about the same. If we go into disk mark, and remember, these are all mechanical. So let's take the sort of the stack drive, and we can run a test on that one. And at the same time, we'll run it also on the mirror drive. And we'll come back to that. I should note that as this test is going on and these drives are being accessed, we're pulling, probably about 28 watts right now. I went ahead and added the SATA SSD for testing too. That caused the power draw to jump up to around 35. As you can see, the speed for reads and writes on the SATA SSD is significantly better, almost 4 times the speed. But the nice thing is that these speeds, as far as the mechanical, are the same as if you had it connected directly inside of the unit. And also with the stacking of the drives or the setting up the mirroring didn't really change the speed. There wasn't any degradation there. But let me know in the comments what you end up doing with this, and suggestions for other things you can do with multiple drives.